Welcome to the weekly shir of the Zera Shimshon, given by yours truly, Yosef Lange. Hello, family and friends. This week, we're going to skip the Parsha and do Megillas Esther since it's coming up. And I don't know if I'll be available next week anyway, so if I do, I'll do another Megillas Esther, okay? But let me, it's Zion Adar. It's also Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit. It's a Shem. Zion Adar base, Tafshin Pei base. And I want to start with explaining the psukim that we're going to be doing, because otherwise you might get confused, those that don't know the Megillah Baal Peh. So one pasuk, the main pasuk we're going to quote here is the second to the last Perek Tes in Megillas Esther. It says, Pasuk Chav Zayin. It says, Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim aleim es alazarim al kol hanilvim aleim v'lo yavor liyos oisim es shnei hayamim ha'elu kiksavim kizmanam b'chol shana b'shana. So the words kimu, the word kimu is plural. The word kiblu sounds plural when you read it because it's a conducive, but it's written Likibel haYehudim. So, and then another pasuk before this, and pasuk Chav Gimel says, "V'kibel haYehudim eis asher heichilu lasos, ve'eis kol asher kasav matchay aleim." So those two, so there it's written V'kibel, which is lashon yachid. So let's look at the Zera Shimshon, which is very interesting this week. A little complicated, but yeah, it's okay. I'll try to explain it as best I can. It says, this is Megillas Esther, Zera Shimshon, Kapitel Chav 20. Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim. He quotes the pasuk in which we just quoted. Yishta daktek. So we have to be particular about the words. Lama ksiv v'kibul haYehudim. Why does it write the word v'kibul in lashon yachid? Mikol shekein kra del'el samach. It says in pasuk Chav Gimel, which I just quoted. V'kibul haYehudim es asher heichilu lasos, v'karinin hachi nami v'kibul b'lashon yachid. So it's also in the lashon yachid, which is in singular form, not a plural form. Milvad mashu kasavna l'mayla. We said besides what I read before in Isaiah Dalit. Okay, we won't go into that. Yuvan b'mayde amina v'per kamadi hayrius. There's a Gemara daf Gimel on base in Horios. Omer Rabbi Yonasan Mea sheyashvu lahayres. 100 poskim sat down to paskin. Ein chayavim ad sheyoyru kulam. So they're not obligated to bring a korban if they make a mistake until they all paskin. Okay, why all of them? Because it says v'im kol adas Yisrael yishku. If all of the Jewish Sanhedrin makes a mistake. Ad sheyishku kulam. So the Gemara says until they all make the mistake. The bechol haTorah kula kaimelan, because in the rest of the Torah it said we have a rule. It says rule by kikulei. The majority is like the entirety of the Jewish people. And here it says the entire congregation. So, and even if there's 100. They all have to agree on this psak, this wrong psak, to bow down to Avodah Zorah, to do Gilei Rais, whatever it is, they made a mistake. Okay, Masi Rav Mesharsha, Ein Goyzim Gezerah Latzibur Alimkin Reva Tzibur Yachan Lamoid. But there's a rule that you can't make a Gezerah on the Tzibur unless most of the Tzibur, the Roiv of the Tzibur, is able to stand up to it. Maikra, Meikra, which pasuk do we know that from? It says Oisi Atem Kaivim Hagai Kulei. He quotes from a pasuk in Malachi that says they were given a curse because they were doing averas, and he said, "But me," he says, "me, the God speaking, you're defaulting Hagai Kulei." Okay, so Ika Gai Kulei. So here is mashma that you have to have the entire nation make this mistake. So he said, if you have the entire nation make the mistake, yes. So in other words, he learns from there that if the Roiv Tzibur, according to him, most of the tzibur has to be able to stand up. If not, you can't have it. But the problem is, it says the entire nation. Why are we saying roiv here and not the majority? Ruba kikula dami, because the majority is like the entire entity. The tiyufta the Rabbi Yonasan tiyufta. So this is a refutation to that. Gemara Rabbi Yonasan says, "Nimsinu lemeidim." So we come out from here learning. She'af heichad iksiva milas kol. Even if we say the word kol, which means entirety, amrina ruba kikula, we say the majority is good enough. Miyato kishiyirtze hakasu lashmienu b'makam echad shikulam dafka loy rubam. So if one place it says that it's dafka the entirety of the nation and not majority, ein takana elu lichtay b'lashin yachid. So there's no takana. But we have to write it in the individual, in the singular form. Therefore, we find by Har Sinai, vayichen sham Yisrael neged hahar. Because that wasn't the majority; that was all of them. The Omeru says in Mechilta, "Belev echad ki ish echad." They all had one heart and one person. So therefore, the majority was the entirety here. V'hachi nami nema sharatza akasul hashmino shekol Yehudim kibul aleim asais purim. So here, although the pasuk wants to tell us, kimu v'kiblu, they all accepted on themselves like one person to do Purim. Im haya aimer bekiblu haYehudim, if it had written in the pasuk explicitly that the Jews accepted on themselves hayisi aimer, I would say shaharayv lavadai kiblu aleim. The majority of them accepted upon themselves. V'huadinami im haya aimer kiblu kol haYehudim. If we could have said they accepted all the Jews on themselves, so the majority would have been good enough. Therefore, it says writes the word kibel, which is lashon yachid in the singular. So all of them accepted on themselves to do Purim, and not just the majority. So why does it have to? In the same pasuk, it says two lashonos. One is kiyem, right? It says kimo. Why does it have to say in the majority, the plural in the first word and the singular in the second word? Hashmienu, to tell us, shekulam kimo mitzvahs Purim, that tell us that all of them accepted the mitzvah of Purim. Midichsiu kimo is mashma nami haray. Let's also understand the majority. Yesh the Torah say ein hachi nami sheleinin hakiyam yev shalema shekulam keachad kimo. But it comes to the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Purim, it's impossible to say that all of them did it like one, like singular. Shahari ein kulam mikayimim b'shalom, because you can't say they all were fulfilling the mitzvah equally. Like shahari be'inyan matanis levyanim v'aniyim peturim. So according to, in reference to matanis levyanim, giving presents to the poor people. Those not evyonim, but aniyim, that's a different level of poverty. You ask your rabbi how that is. And they're exempt from giving matanis evyonim. Like it says in the Pri Chadash and Sim Tafrei Sadik Dalid, Ais Aleph, Zera Shimshon, he says, Yesh mi shekasov she'ani hamisparnis min hatzedakah. So that some say that an ani, that has taken gifts from charity funds, he's obligated to give matanis l'avyanim. But ain't as a time, he said, doesn't make any sense. Mistaber the vade the p'tiri had kanashay. That's what Pri Chadash says there. Mistaber, they're certainly exempt. So you see that not all Jews are equal when it comes to fulfillment of the mitzvah of Purim. Ve'af b'sim and tafrei tzadik hein shekasav ha'haga. He says there, it says, V'isha chayavis b'matanis evyanim isleich manas ki'ish. That a woman is obligated to matanis evyanim and mashlech manas like a man. Because of a Pri Chadash, ein din zeh mechuber. He says, this din is not clear. The ish ksiv, it says in the pasuk, man. V'loi ksiv isha. It doesn't say woman. I mean, how could he have a raya for this then? And furthermore, a person that's in mourning can't be happy on Purim. That some say that all the dinim of mourning are noyagim Purim. At least things that can be done in private that's the minhag to keep them. In Cain, you see from here that not everybody is obligated the same way. That's why it says v'kimu, that most of the people kept. The Im Cain says, therefore, therefore not everybody is equal in fulfillment of the mitzvah of Purim. But in reference to accepting upon themselves the mitzvahs of Purim, that is to fulfill the remembrance of the miracle, kulam ke'echad kiblu aleim. Everybody accepted. Therefore it says in the first pasuk Chav Gimel that the lashon in the singular that they accepted, that they began. Mikabel is accepting on themselves. Therefore, it's talking about accepting the remembrance of the general miracle of Purim. The second pasuk, which we're talking about, it says Kimu. It says they fulfilled it. They're in the fulfillment of it. Not everybody is equal. It says the word in Yachid, v'kibel. That's how it's written. But Karina and v'kiblu. But you read it the word as kiblu in lashon rabim in the plural. Because in reference to accepting upon themselves, everybody was equal. So even somebody that's in avelus or have some other problem that they can't fulfill some mitzvah, he's an ani or a woman. He already accepted on himself. Since by women and similar poor people, there's a machloikis in the paiskim if they do have to fulfill mitzvahs of matanis avyonim. Mishum mahachi karina bekiblu. That's why they said they all accepted on themselves. The hainu the kayim hamitzvahs apratiyos the hainu mishlech malis or matanis avyonim lo hushbukol. So they accepted to do all the mitzvahs, but that doesn't mean they have to, or doesn't mean they're obligated. So therefore, they're all equal when it comes to that. Shahari hanashim lo nitztavu lo kiblu. So the women, for example, are not accepted upon themselves. Okay, so we should all have a fulfilling Purim, and I got a short little segula from the segula today before Purim, Parsha Zocher, to give them machzis hashakel. So don't forget, it's a big segula. That in itself is a big segula for Parnasa. Anyway, so there was this Rav, doesn't mention his name, who was in the days of Chol HaMoed Pesach, when it was, I think he mentions the year. So a different Rav spoke to him, and he said in his words, he was Niker. It was recognizable that he had a lot of emotion when he was speaking to me, and I understood that some great Yeshua came to this tzaddik. Okay, so what did he say? He began by saying, the beginning of Chodesh Elul Tafshin Ayin Gimel, right? It was 57:73. Okay. Kishinis Parsim Ma'amareno Esiporeno Shel Harav Nachman Zilber, when it became famous in the papers what was going on with Rabbi Zilber, then this about the Sefer Zera Shimshon and the Yeshua's Gedolah Shezaychem that all the great miracles and salvations that were occurring because the people were learning the Sefer, explicitly learning his sweet and beautiful words. Kanievski, he said, I bought the Sefer. I've seen many wondrous things happen to me, to other people who started learning with me. So, for example, we'll give us one example. So when he was Emunas Tzadikim Po'ambi, that the trust in the tzaddikim beats in my heart. He spoke to one of his family members. He didn't have children for 4 years. He was married 4 years. He wasn't zeicher to Zera Shimshon. I advised him very strongly that he should buy the sefer and make akvius, learning Zera Shimshon. And because you see, he promised to have Yeshuas. So for sure, Reb Nachman didn't say his words for naught. And so for sure, it was clear that he was able to suffice all of his promises. And therefore, look, he took the sefer, bought the sefer, and he started learning it b'kvius. And Baruch Hashem, this week, he said, and that was a whole year later, Shadayin loy av Rashana mitchilas limudei, didn't even pass a year since he began learning. Nisbasru shenoylad loy ben zachar. He gave the good news that he was born after 4 years or so, 4.5 years of marriage. He was privileged to get a male child. May you have, if I don't speak to you next week, may you have a freilich and simcha dikya Purim, and don't forget the machsa shakel, give tzedakah, matanis avyainim, and fulfill all the mitzvahs of the Purim, kimu v'kiblu. Okay, sei gebencht.